All right. What's up, everybody? How's it going? Happy Saturday. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's ready for another exciting stream. Because we're jumping in today. We're doing basically how to match your 3D lighting to your 2D source footage. Now, if you guys look here, I got After Effects open. Basically, this here is our 2D source footage. And we want to put some 3D stuff into the scene. It doesn't matter what kind of 3D stuff, just some 3D stuff. But for the sake of this tutorial, the most simple explanation is using a chrome sphere. So I have this chrome sphere right here. And there's a couple different passes that I rendered out that make this look pretty realistic. So I just want to basically talk to you guys how to take a custom like HDRI light map and use that to light your scene and color correct it to match your 2D source footage. Because once you get to this point, once you have a chrome sphere in your scene and it looks like it belongs, then you can add anything else into your scene and it's gonna look perfect. So this will set you up for the most realistic lighting, the most realistic renders. So yeah, I'm gonna try and keep this stream relatively short. Still trying to find the best time to stream. We were doing noon, 10:45 the last 2 weeks, and it's pretty early for me. It's still I do a lot of things to kind of get the stream going. So yeah, we might push to 11. I don't know, but for now, 10:45 is what it will remain at. So yeah, how's everybody doing? Thanks for joining, guys. Thanks for hopping in. Got some familiar faces in here. I hope you guys are ready to learn a little bit. I also got all of your guys' weekly renders for the weekly challenge. This week's challenge was Planet, and there was some really cool stuff that you guys submitted to the Discord server. So we'll be going through the 5 winners after I talk about some quick tips and tricks here on, once again, how to match your 3D lighting to your 2D source footage. And I'm also going to be putting out a tutorial on how to make your own custom HDRIs. I've been talking about it for a while, and it's something that has been a lot of fun to work on. It's just been slow because, I work at Corridor, and I'm also doing these streams here, so I just got a lot of stuff going on. But I wrote the video last week, and it's going to be really sweet. It's only 3 pages long, so it should be a quick one. And I just want to walk you guys through how to get those custom HDRIs that I'll be using to, again, match our 3D lighting to our 2D source footage. So I'm just going to hop into Cinema. Basically, all I did here in After Effects was render out a JPEG sequence. Right? So this is my shot. I'm not even going to track it, okay? We can just point track it later. And if I hit Control-Shift backspace, Control-Shift backslash. I think it's backslash. It's the one with the question mark. Maybe it's a /. It'll send it to the render queue. And if you go to the bottom, I'll delete the rest of this stuff. I want to save out a JPEG sequence that I can use as my background in Cinema 4D. That's how I'm going to reference my source footage here. So to keep things moving quickly, what I do is, this is 4K footage. I'm going to go to JPEG sequence, which is, I believe, a custom little thing I set up. And if you guys want to know how to do that, all you have to do is basically go to make template right here. And I save it as _, so all my custom ones are at the top. But it's going to save this out as 4K JPEG files, and we don't want that because it's just for viewing, quick viewing in Cinema 4D. So I go to best settings. I take it from best, or I actually go to the resolution here. It says full. I'll take that down a quarter, and if you look, the size in parentheses actually is 960 by 540, and that is going to play a lot faster in Cinema 4D as like a background object. So you save that out. I already did that. And we'll hop in here and let's load it up. So basically we have a blank scene. And again, I'm using C4D, I'm using Octane, but you guys can use any program that you enjoy, that you like. The same concept applies throughout, you know, all 3D software. It's just a workflow thing we're talking about. So we want to, let's just put a sphere in here, just cause. I'm gonna give it some more segments, and I'll keep it editable. I also want it sitting on the floor. If I make a plane here, it's just gonna be kind of sitting halfway through. So what I'll do is take the sphere, since we know it's a radius of 100 centimeters, I'm gonna move it up 100 centimeters, and now it's sitting on the floor. Okay, go ahead and give our scene a save. All right. So, what's next? We need to load that background. So the best way to do that in Cinema is up here, there's this little floor button. If I hold it down, you can create a background. Also, if you hit Shift-C, you can type in background, and you can make a background that way as well. So this background popped in here. We also know we want an HDRI environment. So I'm just going to make that real quick. And it just turned our scene black because it's looking for a file that's just black. So with background here, we want to drop that JPEG sequence on. So I'm going to make a new Octane material because we're in Octane. So let's keep it uniform. I'll double click, and under diffuse, I'm going to load. Let's see, let's load that JPEG sequence. Loading dock, boom. Okay, cool. And you hit no. And the first thing you want to do is click the image here, because we need to make sure that Cinema 4D is recognizing it as an image sequence. So I'll click this once, and if I go to animation right here, this animation tab up top, and we hit calculate, you're going to see these frame numbers populate. And the frame numbers are nuts because in After Effects, right, if we go back to After Effects, and we hit Control K, this is our composition settings. And you can see the start frame is set to 400,384. You can see it down here as well. Our frame 1 is 400,384. Usually, I always forget to do this, but usually you just want to hit that, set that to 0. It just cleans things up, you know. So now we know our render or our scene is 208 frames long. Okay. I don't think it's going to update this because we'd have to re-render the JPEG sequence, and we don't want to do that. The last thing you'll want to do is under Editor, you're going to want to check Animate Preview, and that's going to allow us to scrub through and actually see an animated preview of this JPEG sequence in the viewport. So I'll drag and drop this onto the background, and nothing happened. That's because our Octane sky, it actually is showing like a visible kind of thing here, a visible representation of our HDRI environment. So we want to turn that off. That's actually what we're seeing, this light gray background. Now, there's these two stopwatches in Cinema. The first one is viewport. The second one is in the render, okay? So we want to turn off the Octane sky that's on and then off in the viewport. So now we're seeing through, and we got our background here. Let's hide the plane for a second. And there we go. Now, for whatever reason, it's not working where we can scrub through our footage. You know, we've done everything we needed to do that. If we actually double click down here in the material window, we made a new material. You can't see it because my head's covering it. But if I open that up, and this is just a C4D texture. This is not an Octane texture. We'll load the image. We'll load the same JPEG sequence. Nope. Click the image, go to animation, calculate. It calculates those frames. Go to viewport, check animate preview. And now if we apply that texture to the background, that should animate. That's a C4D material on the background. That should work. Now, when we render our scene, we should see something, but we're not seeing anything right now. That's because we have an Octane sky looking for an HDRI image that is not there. So the first thing you guys want to do when matching your 2D source footage and your 3D lighting together is there's no better way to match the lighting than to actually use the lighting that was there, that actually lit your footage on the day. And again, that's taken with a 360 camera. This is a Insta360 1R. It has 2 lenses for a full 360 effect. And this is how I take my HDRI images. More on that in another video. I can't wait to put it together for you guys. It's going to be super awesome. So that's how I'm making my custom HDRI images. Anytime, like at Corridor, we're doing Boss Town Dynamics, whatever. Yesterday, we shot the world's biggest domino run video. I'm kind of sunburnt and drained from yesterday. We were running around the city. We were taking HDRI maps because we know that we're going to put some 3D thing into the scene here, and we want it to react to the actual lighting here, you know, that we're actually in our scene. So we would take those HDRI maps, and then later, when we're compositing the footage, we're putting those dominoes in there, we're going to put that HDRI map in place right in this little box right here. So let's load this custom HDRI here. Boom, boom. Now, if you guys don't have the ability to take an HDRI map, and actually you do. That's the thing, is you do. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that in that later tutorial. But at the moment, right, if let's say you guys don't have the footage at the moment, for whatever reason, you can't go back to set and shoot an HDRI, then honestly what I'd do is I'd go to HDRI Haven and download something that is very, very close. HDRI Haven is an incredible website. If you go to HDRIs, you can search through just a plethora of incredible HDRI maps here. This is the best website ever. They're all free. You can get up to 16K resolution. Oh my goodness, 20K. Jeez. Okay, guys, like, this is the best website ever. If you guys need HDRIs, find one that is close to the scene that you shot, or to the location and lighting setup that you actually shot and are trying to match. But again, you can't go wrong with doing them custom, because at the end of the day, that's the best, closest method, because, you know, yeah, it's the same thing. All right, so we have this HDRI loaded, and what we want to do is basically get this image on the right. It's very dark. We want to get this image on the right to have the same lighting values, the hue, saturation, all that, as our source footage on the left. And the best way that I've been using to achieve that is by making this sphere a chrome sphere. So the first thing I'll do is I'll make a glossy material in Octane. We'll go to index. We'll take that index down to 1. That makes this thing a chrome ball, all right? And that's why you see all those VFX artists with chrome balls. It's because they're getting actual lighting data of the scene they're shooting at. So let's do, let's just type in VFX chrome ball. And it looks like there's a bunch of tutorials on this. And you'll see people going around with these kind of things. And like, I honestly don't know. They use this and they take a picture of this chrome ball and they unwrap it. And when they unwrap it, that is their HDRI image. Because when you wrap it back around a giant spherical kind of environment in 3D, it gets you this effect. So that's the same thing, this matte gray ball. The idea is if you can get your CG chrome sphere and your CG matte gray ball looking exactly like your practical matte gray ball and practical chrome sphere, then you know you have completely and successfully recreated the lighting in your CG scene to match this actual source reference. These are like, what are they? They're called lawn, like chrome gazing spheres or something like that. Gazing balls. I'm not really sure. They're like weird lawn ornaments. I think they're really ugly. I don't know why you'd have this in your lawn, but yeah, they're trying to sell these for $170, $150. Just go to Amazon and try and find a lawn ornament. It's gonna be a lot cheaper, I promise. Okay, so let's drop that chrome texture onto our sphere, and in our scene, it's just so dark, right? It's too dark. So I think the first thing I'll do, just briefly, I'm gonna go to the Octane sky. I'm gonna go to the environment tag. I'll take the power up to 3. Let's go to 10, just so we can see a thing, and then we'll make sure it's right. So let's actually get this in place. I used, well, actually here real quick, let's just take a look at the HDRI. I'm just gonna open this up a little bit for you guys to see. And if I look around, you can see what's going on here. There's me on my one wheel. It's really dark. 100. Okay, yeah, there's me on my one wheel. Taking the picture. I'm using my phone connected to the camera, and we're sitting on these like stair steps. And I'm trying to get, there's the tripod with the camera on it, and I'm trying to get, I'm trying to capture this HDRI image as close to the point where I know there's gonna be a CG object. So my eye line is level with the bottom of this railing here. So if we look at the source footage, that would mean that in a perfect world, the middle of this chrome sphere is at the middle of this railing. So it'd be a pretty big one, but I'm not gonna get that intense with it. I think it's fine. You can just generally have it in place. Okay, so yeah, let's line this thing up. I am going to go to my camera. I know I shot this on a 24, so I'm gonna just change that setting real quick. And I'm just gonna get this roughly in place. That is basically fine. Right about there. Now, of course, you'd want to line up your camera exactly. There's other tutorials for all that stuff, right? And yes, the cats, they're scrapping. They're scrapping in the back right now. An hour and 18 minutes till SpaceX NASA launch. Yes, I think they're launching the first astronaut in a long time, which is really crazy. Or it's like the US's first astronaut in a long time. These cats, man, they are running around. I'm going to have to separate these guys in a second. Next time they come back, I'm going to have to do that. All right. We have this set up right here. And actually, I took an HDRI. I took 2. I took one that was lower, and I took one that was higher just as a test. But I'm actually going to grab the normal one, just the loading dock one. And all right, you can see the sun there. And what's cool about the HDRI is, like, you take this down to 0.1 and you still retain your highlight values. You're not going to get that from a JPEG, I promise. Look at this wall. You can still see the detail on the wall. We go up to 1, right? And now we get the detail in the shadows. You can still see the shadows and everything. So yeah, I think you guys get the idea. This HDRI map is lighting our CG scene, but what we need to do, let's set up a little an alpha channel here, because we're seeing the HDRI in the background. We don't want that. We want to see our actual source footage, okay? So what I'm going to do is in Octane, all right, I'll go to Octane settings. I'll scroll down just a little bit until you see alpha channel. I'll check that. And would you look at that? We now have our background coming through. I'm going to uncheck keep environment. That basically, when there's motion blur, there's kind of half opaque pixels when there's intense motion blur. And when you look through those half opaque pixels, you might be seeing this background, right? Which isn't what we want. We want this background. So I always uncheck keep environment. All right. So we generally have this in place. We want it sitting on the ground here, but this HDRI, it's too contrasty. Yeah, it's definitely too contrasty. So this is the trick. This is it here. We need to match the values of our HDRI map to the values of our background footage. Okay? So before we do that, I'm just briefly going to put this on the ground. I'm going to seed it on the ground with just a plane. So let's bring our plane back in. Okay. We can see here that, we're getting some nice lighting here. And actually we get some nice bounce light from this wall down here, which is super accurate because we're actually getting bounce light from this pole. So if I go into if I zoom in here, you can see this pole. We're actually getting some bounce light from this wall over here, right? And it's causing a nice little shadow here. And of course there's shadow from the sun that is blasting these rails onto the wall, right? So we want to be able to replicate that. But because I took the picture in like an overcast area, I didn't take the picture in the sun, I took it in the overcast area, it's going to assume this whole thing is pretty overcast. So we need to bring in an extra sunlight to beef things up. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's take that plane. And I'm just going to make a shadow catcher in Octane by making a new Octane diffuse material. Once again, you guys can always hit Shift-C, type in Octane, and you'll have all your Octane options there. And then you can make a diffuse material by typing in diffuse, and there you go. So I'll go in here, and we'll go to Common, and I will check the shadow catcher box right there. And I'll just drop that onto the plane, and you guys can see there's a nice little shadow catcher going on here. So now what we want to do next is match the values of our HDRI image to the background here. All right. So one thing you'll notice actually when you check this plane on, this shadow catcher, it actually changes the reflection. So I'm always doing the shadow catcher pass as a render pass because look how it messes up our reflections. No good. So I'll leave that off for this image matching here. Okay, so what we'll do is in the Octane Sky environment tag, I'm just going to scrub down here and you'll see this icon. This is our node view icon. I'm going to click that. And now we have full control over our HDRI environment. We can move it around, we can change colors, all that good stuff. So let's add a color correction node in between the image texture and the environment. Nothing happens because we didn't type anything in. We didn't change these numbers. This is way too contrasty, but our contrast is basically at 0. So what I usually do is I'll take the gamma and I'll go 0.5, and that gets us pretty close. I think it's a little bright, and I also think it's a little saturated. I'm just looking at the ground here, right? This compared to this. So let's try 0.6. And I think it's actually, yeah, it's a little saturated, so maybe we'll go 0.8 on saturation, maybe 0.5 on saturation. And now this ground kind of matches this ground a little bit more. This is still a little dark, and this is a little bright, so it's a little contrasty still. So I think what we'll do is bring down the brightness. Let's try 0.8. Well, what happens if we go 0.1? All right, so that's obviously too much. We'll go 0.5. And the gamma will go 0.5. And you see how these highlights are pretty intense. They're clipping a little hard. I'm going to go to our Octane camera tag here. I'll go to camera imager and I'm going to crank up this highlight compression. And that's going to save our highlights. You guys can really see that taking effect there. So I'm just going to kind of work that in until it matches the wall. Okay. So this is very close. So if you can get this looking nice, then you'll be able to drop anything into this environment and it'll automatically be looking really nice. There's a couple things that we need to do specifically for this shot though, like maybe add a wall here so that our shadow can cast up against this wall, right? And then maybe for the stairs, we can just model the stairs quickly, and that way the ambient occlusion from this sphere will kind of spill off onto those stairs. So we get a really realistic look. So how's everyone doing so far? Thumbs up if you guys are following along and doing all right, learning a thing or two. Now, if there's anything if you guys have any questions that pertain to what I'm doing here, just feel free to @ me here in the comments in the live feed, and I should be able to, see what's going on. Okay. So let's see. I still think we can tweak a couple things here. That might look a little bit better. Yeah, that feels pretty close to me. I'm just kind of generally looking at these dark values to see if they match these dark values over here. I also don't want this highlight to be brighter than this highlight or darker than this highlight on the wall. Might be a little saturated, so I'll just bring the saturation down once more. And that's, whoa, what just happened? What? You guys saw that? What happened? It literally just disappeared. Where did it go? What on earth? Well, that was weird. That was really weird. I don't know what that was about. Okay, so here's another thing. You want to make sure your HDRI is oriented properly, right? So it's like, how do we know which, it's like, I guess the stairs were that way, but we'd be looking at the stairs, so we need to go 180 from there. So it'd be something like that, I guess. The best way to find out is once you have your object in place, the best way to do this is I'll switch this to direct lighting, and that will just pop up my HDRI environment. And from there, if I go back to the Octane tag here, let's see, the environment tag, go to node view, and I'm just going to give this image texture a transform, and we'll move it around so that generally, the door is behind the sphere and this wall, this bright wall on the right is on the right. And that's it. That's how I'm lining that stuff up. Back to path tracing. That'll get us back to our view. Darkblade is asking, how are you converting your 360 images to one HDR? And that's exactly what I'll be talking about in another tutorial. But basically what I'm doing is in Photoshop, I'm taking all of these different bracketed exposures and I'm combining them together in Photoshop and saving it out as a 32-bit HDRI or HDR image. And that's allowing me to retain my highlights and keep all the nice exposure and lighting data so that when we're in 3D, we have a lot of room to play around. Okay. So let's get our shadows going. So we have our plane. Okay. And actually, I wonder if you see the shadows going along this line. I wonder if we can just go into node view and like orient it so that the shadow maybe that works. Yeah, that feels about right to me. So let's quickly just kind of model some rough geometry. I'm going to get a wall in here, and I'm going to do the stairs separately from this plane. So with the plane, I'm going to set the width and height segments to just 1. And I'm going to go to, let's uncheck check camera. All right. And we'll come in here and we'll just briefly shape out the geometry. So this isn't going to be super the way to do this. I would probably, track the camera or at least get like a camera mapping tag on this thing and like line it up exactly. But for the sake of this tutorial, we can just do this real quick just to demonstrate. So let's get this shadow catcher off. I'm going to set the plane to X-ray. Back into camera view. And I'm just going to start moving some lines around. And we just want this seam for the wall. That's all we want. Right here. We'll do the stairs in a second. I'm going to grab this back point and just move it so that this lines up nicely with the wall. All right, and we'll grab this edge. I'm gonna hit W for move, hold Control, and drag this up. So now you have a wall there. And again, you can see the perspective is not right, but that's okay for the sake of this tutorial. So we have our wall, okay, and our ground. And with the shadow catcher, let's see, we'll put that on the plane. And, we'll be able to get some nice realistic shadows in here. And again, it makes our sphere look weird. And our reflections look weird. So I'll do a render pass. One where, let's see, with the sphere selected, I'll give it an Octane tag. And under visibility, I'll uncheck camera visible. And I'll render this, right? Maybe without the background. So we'll just render this bit as our shadow pass, or maybe our ambient occlusion pass. And then I would render just the sphere without the plane. So it's just this, right? And this would be our diffusion pass. And you can render any other passes you want, like a post-processing pass or anything like that. All right, so let's just get these stairs in here real quick. So what I'll do is I'll just make a cube. Right, and let's just work the scaling a little bit. That's roughly, some stairs. I'll go to basic and set it to X-ray. In fact, I'm going to take the cube, hold Control, and just make it a plane. And we'll rotate the plane 90 degrees. And I'll set the width and height segments to 0 or 1. I'll hit C to make it editable, and I'll just start moving pixels around. Not pixels, points and edges and stuff. We'll push this back. I'm holding control, and I'm just shaping the stairs. So building out the scene geometry helps with the shadows. All right, so those stairs, let's extend these guys. I want to scale them from the left side, so I'm going to use the Axis Center tool, I believe is the name of this tool. Yep, I use it all the time. And I want to move this axis negative x, right, all the way to the most negative x point that this geometry can handle. So I'm going to take the slider, negative x 100%, and it's going to go right to that side. I'll hit T for scale, and I'll just push this until it goes beyond the wall. And I want to rotate it a little bit because let's get out of our camera view. Let's see. Okay, we're in the stairs. We want to be, these are about here, I'd feel like. Yeah, about something like that. And we'll just give the shadow catcher to the stairs as well. And you can see here very subtly that the shadow catcher kind of clips. I don't know if you guys are seeing that. Right here. So we just want to make sure that these stairs are actually lined up. This corner is actually lined up back here. So for that, I'm probably just going to take all of these edges on, let's see here, on this side, and I'm going to push them back. And you can see our geometry is already not accurate, but that's okay for the sake of this tutorial. That is fine. I just kind of want to show you guys briefly. Okay. All right. So yeah, this is looking pretty nice. And at this point, again, you can drop in anything that you guys want to your scene. It's gonna look nice. I'm just gonna add a sun because we do have a sun blasting, you know, from the left side. So let's see here. Let's go to our sun tag. Let's go sun size. Just for reference, I'll set it to 10, and we'll rotate it around. It's going to be beyond 90 degrees. It'll probably be like 115 degrees, and we'll angle it down. And we can see in our sphere, there is a highlight right there. That's our sun. If we scroll down on the sun tag and you click this button, the Mix Sky Texture, it's going to actually give you both your Octane sun and your HDRI. So it's going to give you those nice hard shadows with the sun, as well as the nice reflections with HDRI. So I want to line up this sun with this sun. So I'm just gonna go to the Octane sun tag and go north offset and just kind of scrub this around until it gets to about the point right about there. And it can come down a little bit, but cool. And then I'm just going to rotate it down a little bit so it gets right in there. We'll set our sun size back to 1, right? That was just so we can actually see what we're doing. I'm gonna save it. Now our sun is actually perfectly lined up with our HDRI environment. Okay. So now what that gives us is a hard shadow, because we're definitely getting a hard shadow, right? From, you can see this railing here is getting cast onto this wall. So we're not just going to have ambient occlusion light with our sphere, we're going to have a hard sunlight as well. So you guys can see here, if I bring our shadow catcher back in, it's really casting that nice shadow onto the wall there. Now, obviously that doesn't look good because we have to composite this in After Effects. And I'll briefly just show you a quick example of what I mean here. So in After Effects, let me just open up this file, right? So if I just bring everything back in, I did this very briefly. It could certainly be better. But you can see here that the shadow, it's not going to make other shadows 2 times dark. You can see how, like, even if we take our shadow down in Octane, it's still making the existing shadows 2 times dark. And that is such a tell. When something is CG, you're getting that double shadow effect, like a shadow overlaid on a shadow. And I'd say the best example for someone who really just knocked this compositing job out of the park is David Lewandowski, I think his name is. You guys know him from this video, going to the store. So this is such a classic video. But if you look at his shadows, there's a moment here when he's like, let's see if I can find an example. There we go. Okay. You see his shadow crosses over the shadow of this pole right here. And his shadow's going to be cast along this wall. And the shadow, the CG shadow, is not doubling up. He's actually doing an alpha matte, a trick where you make your image black and white and you basically just pull an alpha matte, right? And now the shadow isn't being overlaid. It's not even touching the actual shadow. So he's compositing this, right? This shadow to look just like this shadow. And then when it goes over this, this little sign here, this post, he's using a Luma matte. I'll show you guys what I mean. So basically in After Effects, let's just get rid of all this stuff. These are basically the layers that are doing it. Okay, so we have our shadow right here. And you can see what I mean. We're getting that it's double dark. Like this. We don't want that. That's not real. In reality, this would just block the light just as much as this railing is blocking the light. And it would just become, a solid transition between shadow and light. So what we want to do is I duplicated our footage in After Effects, okay? And in there, I'm basically going to take away anything that's bright and leave anything that is dark, okay? So a couple different ways of doing this. You can add an extract effect, and we're going to take away the bright bits. Let's solo it. We're going to take away the bright bits, just like that. And then I'll give it a little bit of feather, right? So it's not such a hard edge. And this is a tricky composite right here, to be honest with you guys. Very, very tricky composite because we have different shadow thicknesses, and some are way softer than others, right? Like you have this shadow here that's very, very soft, but this one is more of a hard edge. The hard edge one's not so much of an issue. It's this soft little bit that is such a difficult problem because there's some crazy fall off. But yeah, if we go back here and we say, okay, we want, no matter what, we want these bits here to not be affected by the sphere's shadow. So we'll unsolo that and let's turn it off for a second. This is our shadow, and I just turned down the opacity to generally match, these values here. And the easiest way to see that is to turn on that layer, right, that we just used. So we have a layer on top that is just the shadow bits with the brightest bits taken away. And it's a very hard edge, so I think what I'll do is I'll hit Shift C. I'm using Video Copilot VC Console. And I'll just get an edge blur, and that's going to blur that edge nicely. And then from here you can start to, you know, there's that hard kind of dark edge. You can probably light wrap it. But your goal would be to get rid of all of this stuff here, all of these lines and, you know, this white kind of haloing effect here. But this is definitely a difficult situation we have found ourselves in with this composite job. So you could spend a good amount of time doing this and trying to get this right. But I'm not going to do that today because that's not the tutorial. The tutorial is to match the lighting in your 3D scene to your 2D source footage. And yeah, I feel like we basically got there. You know, you're going to save out your different passes. As you guys can see here in After Effects, I have, if I solo all this stuff, I have my ambient occlusion pass. I have a diffuse pass. I have a second diffuse pass, which I masked away because technically you're going to see the shadow of this sphere on the ground. It looks weird if it looks like this. It's like extra bright. Technically, the ground would be in shadow as well, even in the reflection. So that's why I kind of brought back in this little bit here, just to kind of give it a little bit of something. Yeah, a wireframe to show that it's actually CG. Yeah, you know, that's basically what we did for Bosstown Dynamics. We used custom HDRIs and we rendered out a diffuse pass and a shadow pass, comped it together, and you know, did this little trick here where we're taking away, we're making sure we're not getting double shadows. Right? You can see he's masking out the shadow of the tree here, and this guy's shadow is actually perfectly blending into that shadow. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. What a great video. I think he actually has like a very similar setup here on the stairs. Yeah, these stairs right here. Now this is lucky because there's no hard shadows he has to mess with. It's all just kind of ambient occlusion. So ridiculous. So ridiculous. Good stuff. That's David Lewandowski. And he's got like going to the store 2 and going to the store 3. It gets crazy. It gets absolutely insane. All right. Yeah, the shadow matching is tough. Compositing is very, very difficult. This was like my... Let's see. Is After Effects crashing? It might be. Oh, wow. This is my whole computer crashing. All right, we're back. Yeah, compositing can get really difficult. You can see here I kind of just like feathered the edge, give it a little edge blur, and just kind of worked the extract on that. But I still have these like kind of light lines here. I think a light wrap could definitely work and help out that situation there. But yeah, that's what I do to set up my CG lighting to match my source footage. And I use that chrome ball technique to know for a fact that it is actually lined up and matched. You know, so I'm looking through a mirror and I'm seeing my HDRI, my custom HDRI, and I have my background footage, my source footage set to the background. So I can really just composite it, kind of composite it here in C4D Octane. So yeah, this is a fun little technique for you guys. I'm super excited for the HDRI tutorial. Like, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a really good one. I'll show you. Let's see if I have any shots to show you guys. Let's see. All right. Yeah, so this is an example of an HDRI versus a JPEG. So if you look here, and we scrub this, you can see look at the highlights. You can see the highlights are actually maintaining, you know, their highlight nature, right? They're staying bright. But if you look at the JPEG example, you can see how they just gray out. It's the difference between this and this, right? You guys can see the difference between a JPEG and an HDR image. When they're brought down, the HDRI image retains its highlights, which is what it's so useful in CG because it can actually light your scene. It's super cool. So yeah, the tutorial is going to be about how to achieve this, how to use it and set it up and everything, like step by step how to set it all up. So I don't want to do a stream and then release a tutorial because it's going to be the same thing. But yeah, that's basically it, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to ask right here. And like I said, guys, it's going to be a short stream. This might be the shortest stream I've ever done. So I'm actually going to announce the winners of the render challenge here, right? And I'll be sure to answer any questions that you guys have on this subject. So okay, yeah, let's check it out. So the prompt for this week's or last week's, I guess, render challenge was planet. Okay, so we got some really nice submissions here. So I'm very excited to go through these with you guys. And it's tough. A planet is tough. You know, a lot of you guys submitted planets. And I feel like, though, you know, the whole point of this is to get some work out and, you know, actually put some work out and work on something. It was tough. There were very few renders that I thought like felt complete to me. A lot of them, you know, the lighting wasn't right. Or, you know, just the scene didn't feel right. It was a planet, sure, but it wasn't like stylized. It wasn't brought to that, you know, that most complete kind of point. And the 5 images I chose, I felt were the 5 most complete images. So yeah, this will be exciting to go over these with you guys. Vision, thank you for the super chat, buddy. Appreciate it. Do I have any kombucha? Let me check. I will be right back, and we'll announce these winners. I still got some from last week left over. This is bigger than my head. I love this Gingerade from GT's so much. I just feel like I'm getting healthy every time I drink it. It's great. Oh man, so good. So good. Okay, guys, it's time to announce these winners. All right. Psychic Bear, welcome. Hello. Just in time for the announcement for these winners here of last week's render challenge. And Psychic Bear, if you have not entered a render challenge, I highly suggest you do this week. They're very fun, and we all learn a lot from the process. So yeah. Oh, and what is kombucha? Kombucha is kind of nasty. It's like fermented tea. It's carbonated, and it's good for your gut. It's good for gut health. And that's about all I know. Okay, guys, let's jump in. So we have these 5 winners. Let's get to it. The first winner of the Planet Challenge is Fanatazik. This is amazing. Really nice render here. You didn't just make a planet. You know, you made a whole scene, and it's like a spaceship set up, and I'm actually looking at all the detail you put into these monitors here for the first time. Earth time 505. You're on the Mac here, and you got some like book down here. You got some surface imperfections on the glass. This is really cool. You know, you mixed it with the plants too, which I really enjoy. But yeah, I think it's a very, very nice composition. I really dig it. This is center framing here on the planet. And there's some things that you can do, I think, to beef up the render a little bit. Like definitely setting these here. I feel like setting this, this might be white and then glow red versus just being red. I think it's just a little distracting maybe too, because we have this like red, this bright red thing up at the top, and there isn't really red anywhere else in the scene. Again, I am colorblind. These are red for sure. Yep. And maybe your pots are red too. I can't tell. But yeah, I don't know. That's a nitpick. Yeah, I just dig this. I think this is really nice. Congratulations, Fana Tizik, I think I'm saying your name right, on winning this week's render challenge. Next up, guys, we have Job. This is super cool. I love this so much. It is a really nice POV shot through a spaceship looking at these cargo ships here, which are incredible. And I'm assuming these ships are downloaded. They look like some, what is his name? Paul Chadheson? Paul Chadheson. I'm going to try and look this guy up. He's on Instagram, and he's amazing. His renders are incredible. Job, sorry to do this right in between, but like it just reminds me of this. Like this dude's images are just incredible. His scale is nuts. He's on Instagram. He's on ArtStation. This dude is amazing. But yeah, this gives me those vibes. You definitely got the chromatic aberration, those chrome abs in there. The only thing, your planet texture is a little low. Maybe it's 4K, maybe it's 2K. I don't know. There's some huge like 16K Earth maps out there. I think NASA has some nice ones on their site. Even with like different like water maps, right? River maps and stuff for reflection, catching those reflections. You can see the rivers coming down in here. So that'd be the only thing. That's literally it. You have a nice lens flare. I like it. Job, congrats for winning this week's weekly challenge. You guys will get the challenge winner role on the Discord server. So next up, let's keep moving on. We have Louis. This is awesome. I really dig this a whole lot. It's very grainy. It's very, very grainy. Guys, always render your stuff, like your final images. Render it at a high samples, large resolution. There's no reason not to. But look at this though. You have the lights from the dark side of the planet wrapping around to the light side, which is always a cool effect. I think this is subtle enough. I wouldn't go any further than this. I know a lot of you guys did this, which is always super cool. You got even have a nice little story text down here. This is Mars. And yeah, not bad on the Earth texture here. I think, again, you could have gone a little higher resolution with this. And you got your classic Octane spaceman in here, looking nice. And you even have, it looks like, some Video Copilot smudge on your lens here, which I think is great. I use it a lot. You got to be very subtle with it. Very, very subtle with it. But I think this is great. Even adding this glare on the left side of the frame adds a lot too, I think. I really dig this composition. I dig your lighting and your tones here. So congrats, Louis. You are a winner for this week's weekly challenge. We got two more, guys. Two more winners. Okay, so these last two, yeah, they're great. Servinity. Boom. This is very, very nice. I really, really liked your atmosphere around the planet. You got it right. You really got it right. And you really nailed like these clouds here. I think this looks great. Honestly, like, is this a picture or is this a render? I don't know. I really don't know. this might be a picture now that I look at it. Here's the thing though. Here's the thing. This dude in the foreground definitely needs some texture. Definitely needs some texture to it. And some surface imperfections could really help your ground here. Maybe some footprints or something. But I really like your composition. It reminds me of a Stuzor render. Oh wow, yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, this here, I think this might be a picture in the background. Huh, interesting. Very interesting. But it does look cool. It looks very, very cool. I'm down for that. So let's go on, guys. Let's move on to the very last winner here. And this one is, I think this is my favorite out of all of the renders from last week's weekly challenge. And it's from Visual. And Visual, if you guys know, he puts out some really, really nice renders. He has won this thing time and time again. But this is incredible. Your composition is so good. And your warm tones are very, very nice. I really dig your render style. Everything you put into your renders are just super awesome. I really get, a feeling looking at this. And you even have a reflection in the window. This is super cool. Very nice. And you tell a story here too. She's got her helmet and everything. She's probably chilling. Maybe she's leaving this planet. Maybe she's going towards the planet. Maybe just passing by. I don't know, but it doesn't look too hot with this asteroid meteor shower here. But it does look cool. It does look super cool. This is desktop background worthy for sure. So congrats. Hey, congrats to all you guys who won this week's weekly challenge. And you guys, again, will be getting the role of challenge winner on the Discord server. So we have to figure out what our next challenge is. Wow. Okay. So on topic with today's lesson with this chrome ball and matching the lighting and everything, I'm just going to go out on a whim here. Or out on a limb, I think is the correct term. And let's see. I'm going to go out on a limb and just say that the challenge for this week is to tell a story through a chrome ball. All right. So if you guys know who, I'm pretty sure MC Escher is the artist. He has a chrome ball. Escher. Yep, this one here. This is a great example of, if one of you guys submitted this, don't submit this as your submission. I'm just saying, I wish there was a larger image here. But yeah, you can see he's telling a story through a chrome ball. He's holding it up. You can see what's going on. This is a self-portrait and his room. You can see the room and everything, his books up there. And this is an awesome drawing. Now, your guys' job is to tell a story through the view of a chrome ball. Okay? You can do it with CG. You can draw it. All that stuff is all good. Just put out some interesting art. Work on it, think of some different ideas. And this might sound difficult at first, but hey, that's the whole point. What if you have a job and this is the job? You have to do it. You're going to have to do it. So might as well get some practice in now for this week when there's no stakes, And I definitely want to add some more prizes to this week's weekly challenge, or the weekly challenge in general. And I'm working on that, okay? Talking with some cool people about getting some cool prizes for you guys on this. So more on that later. But yeah, tell a story through a chrome ball. That is the weekly challenge for this week. If you guys have any questions on anything that we talked about today, then hit me up. I'll be here for the next 5 minutes, just chilling with you guys. Visual, I'm glad you're down for this. You always do a great job with your renders, and I'm so super excited to see what you do. And actually, it kind of reminds me, I've been thinking, you know, I'm always thinking. I'm always thinking, what are some cool tutorials to do for you guys? And, you know, it kind of just reminded me of what I've been thinking about over the last week. You guys ever seen that video? There's a few videos. They're like, it's like a little mini world inside of a power outlet. It's like power outlet world or something. No, not world map. Someone pulls back a power outlet and reveals a cool world inside. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Power outlet. Let's see. Small room inside of power outlet. Miniature room behind electrical outlet. Yeah, this right here. So I would love to do a CG version of this for you guys. I think it'd be so much fun. So I might try to do something like this next week's tutorial. It'd be so much fun. It's just gonna be a lot of work. A lot of work will be put into it. So hopefully we'll have enough time. But yeah, that's where my head's at right now. I don't know. It just kind of reminded me with this chrome ball telling a story, putting a world inside of this other world, you know. All right. Dolan is asking for some render advice. So let's give Dolan some render advice here. Let's pull up your image. Okay. Let's see here. Banner submissions. And we're looking for... All right. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. All right. Let's pull this up. So this is the image here that Dakota is looking for advice on. So right out the gates, if I squint and look at this, it's a little hard to tell what's going on. It kind of looks like an underwater scene. Like definitely reference stuff. You want to reference something that you feel like this would look like. I'm getting vibes of like Titanic, like deep sea Titanic, search party kind of images, you know. I'm also getting some Blade Runner vibes here. Like if I looked up Blade Runner ship, Blade Runner, what was it, 2049, was that the movie? You know, any awesome image by Roger Deakins is gonna be sweet. Like this is certainly more foggy here. Man, that looks so cool. That looks so cool. But yeah, that's not entirely the vibe you're going for here. I just say it's a little I think it needs a bit more clarity. Like where are we? What's going on? This looks to be like a ship. I don't know the scale of things though. I don't have a good sense of scale. Also, if you're in Octane, definitely take your saturation to white value to 0.2, and that's going to make things bright in the center, and then it's going to fall off to that red glow. But usually lights will be white. They will appear white when they're the brightest, but as they fall off, then they'll have their nice cast. And that'll be in your camera imager tab in your Octane tag, okay? You're going to check that box, scroll down, saturate to white. I'll just show you. Hit this tab here, camera imager, check that box, scroll down, and your saturate to white is 0.2. And that'll help that. Otherwise, yeah, I think you could work on composition. Like you have this dark line across the left side. You know, and again, when I sit back and I squint, It's not the most pleasing silhouette. Try and go for a really pleasing silhouette that you feel feels really nice. Definitely reference some Roger Deakins photography. Like, let's see. Always with your reference. You know, that's the good stuff. These images are incredible. Just like look at these silhouettes. You're seeing these silhouettes here, and they're telling stories. You can really see clearly what is going on. And I know there's probably a shot in the movie where, you know, there's kind of a ship silhouette at some point, but yeah, reference actual photography. Maybe look at Titanic. Let's see, Titanic shipwreck. So maybe you can get kind of a nice reference. Let's see, ocean floor maybe? I'm sure there's some James Cameron, like, you know, exploratory photos or something around that you could reference, because I definitely get that vibe with your image as well. So I think I've gone on enough about that. Yeah, anything else, guys, before I dip out of here? Probably don't have too much time to give advice to everyone, but it just depends on the timing of everything. But yeah, it's just important that you guys keep submitting, you know, keep creating things and keep learning, keep growing. And there should be a lot of there's a lot of people in the Discord server that will help you guys out as well. It's a very active community. It's super cool that you guys are really active with it. Yeah, it's awesome. It's the best, you know, like every day I check it and it's constantly full of new stuff, which is so cool. It's so cool. People are actually using it and learning and growing. Are assets allowed in this week's weekly challenge? Yes, assets are allowed. Totally. You can use any asset you want. You can model it. You can use the assets, whatever. Yeah, so Undi, yes, we do. So he's asking if there's a filmic color space in C4D, and yeah, I usually just set it to linear. So I'll go up here. Response is set to linear, and by default it's set to sRGB, and the gamma is set to 1, which kind of messes up the image, makes it look all nasty. And for whatever reason, it's not updating here. But yeah, I'll set this response. I'll go to linear, and then I'll set the gamma to 2.2. And that is basically, you're kind of set up for a linear color space and all that good stuff. How did I do the sound design for the Domino Run Corridor Crew video? So that would be Dean Hughes. And I believe he just pulled the sound effects from actual Domino videos on YouTube and overlaid them onto our video. Is the quickest, fastest way, most effective way to do that. So we'll have to be probably recording some custom sound design for the actual Domino video, which we recorded yesterday. And we'll have to probably buy some dominoes or get some people to help us. I know we were talking with, what's her name? Her name's Lily, Havesh5. We were talking with her. She runs a really intense domino channel. So we might actually reach out to her and see if she can't help us maybe with some sound design. Also, maybe with some actual runs and stuff. Am I going to watch the SpaceX launch? Yeah, I might catch it later, to be honest. I think I need to go out for a walk or something. So I'm actually going to dip out of here, guys. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate y'all. And good luck on this week's weekly challenge by telling a story through a chrome ball. All right? That's the challenge. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.